Good evening, Dan Rather with the CBS Evening News. Mystery grows over the cause of Sunday night's Northwest Airlines crash. Early investigation shows no proof of Pratt & Whitney engine fire or failure. It has been learned that the plane involved had what appears to have been an especially troubled past. Some follow-up is expected on that aspect of the investigation. And details are coming out about how a 4-year-old child miraculously became the only survivor. Our coverage begins with Richard Roth.
The twisted debris is still the object of close study. Rescue workers collecting personal effects to help identify the dead, and accident investigators hoping to read from the wreckage signs of what caused the crash. Before the jet fell here, it took down a light pole just 41 feet high and clipped an airport building. A mechanical voice reportedly sounded in the cockpit, warning engine stall, followed by a crew member swearing. But the cause of the trouble and the tragedy isn't yet known. The one survivor's story hasn't been told. The only passenger who lived through the crash, a 4-year-old girl, is still too badly hurt to tell what happened. Cecilia Sheehan lived through the accident that killed her mother, father, and brother. Relatives from Pennsylvania recognized her chipped tooth, braided brown hair, and nail polish her grandmother had put on.
She was pretty well banged up, but when we saw the tooth and when we saw the purple nail polish and the braid, we all just broke down. It was incredible.
She had been pulled from the flaming wreckage by a doctor who heard a crying sound and discovered the little girl strapped to an airline seat underneath the dead body of a woman.
Possibly she was cradling her in the airplane when the accident happened.
Cecilia's grandfather is convinced the dead woman covering the girl was her mother.
In a short space of time from takeoff to the crash, she had to get out of her seat and put her body around little Celie to shield her from the fire and the impact of the crash.
Doctors say Cecilia will live. Relatives of others on the flight were called to a morgue to try and identify the dead, though in some cases that may be impossible.
If you're in a ball of fire cruising down a highway and you're supposed to be up in the air in an airplane, you're going to get some awful looking injuries.
Rescue workers have said it was the explosive fire from a full load of fuel that seems to have killed most of the victims. The impact, though devastating, was not necessarily fatal. Richard Roth, CBS News, Romulus, Michigan.
Even before Northwest Airlines merged with Republic a year ago to become the nation's third largest carrier, the airline has been fraught with problems, including flight delays, labor disputes, even mechanical difficulties with the plane that crashed. According to FAA records, the ill-fated aircraft in Detroit had experienced engine trouble on 3 occasions. November 1985, the plane, then a Republic jetliner, took off from Minneapolis, but 18 minutes later, the left engine failed, the flight returned safely. April 1986, the same plane left San Francisco, and 11 minutes later, lost power in the right engine. In January 1987, the plane took off from Memphis, and this time was forced to return because of low oil pressure in the right engine. The FAA and Northwest Airlines say the problems likely had no bearing on Sunday's accident, since both engines had been replaced and repaired. Still, airline sources told CBS News affiliate WCCO-TV that on 3 occasions last month, Northwest flights involving the same plane were canceled because of maintenance problems involving hydraulic pumps and wing repairs. While Northwest, until Sunday's crash, boasted one of the best safety records in the industry, its on-time performance since the merger has dropped to 55%, and it now ranks second behind Continental Airlines for most customer complaints. The company blames a work slowdown among mechanics and baggage handlers.
It's been a difficult merger to accomplish, and I don't believe it's accomplished today. But I don't take responsibility for that. I believe that's management's responsibility.
But public concern over chronic flight delays and lost luggage is now overshadowed by more serious questions still unanswered amidst the debris of Northwest Flight 255. Frank Courier, CBS News, Minneapolis.
A young American who says he was a hostage has turned up free and talking out of Beirut tonight. Journalist Charles Glass says he was kidnapped 2 months ago. Today, he said he escaped from his captors. Many questions are being asked. For example, in Damascus, where Glass was taken by the Syrian army, officials said the kidnappers may have let him escape. Mark Phillips begins our report.
As he was finally leaving the Middle East on the way to see his family in London this evening, Charles Glass recounted the details of how he had escaped from his captors and made his way to a Beirut hotel.
I rigged up my chain so I could get out, and I went out on a balcony and back into the apartment through another door, down the stairs, and out to the street, and got a family in a car at a bakery to give me a lift to the subway.
Were you mistreated?
No.
Glass said it had taken him some time to loosen the chains on his wrist and ankle. He then waited for his guards to fall asleep in another room before attempting his escape. Would he go back to Beirut? Glass's wife and family expressed their relief when they heard the news.
I was just amazed, so thrilled, I just can't tell you. It was incredible.
Glass was debriefed by both American embassy officials and the Syrians today. Publicly, he says that after 2 months of captivity, he still doesn't know who his kidnappers were. He was blindfolded all the time. The Syrians tried to take some credit for the escape, contradicting Glass's own story and claiming the kidnappers allowed him to go free as the Syrian security net was tightening around them. While the Charles Glass kidnapping has ended in spectacular and happy fashion, neither the Syrians nor anyone else seem to be able to help the 23 other foreigners, including 8 Americans who are still captives. One of them, Terry Anderson, has been held since March of 1985.
Good to see you.
But for Charles Glass, looking a lot thinner and very tired, the ordeal is over. His decision to go back to Lebanon, he now says, was the stupidest mistake of his life. Mark Phillips, CBS News, Damascus.
A Reagan administration official said today that U.S. intelligence isn't sure exactly how Glass gained his freedom, but he said American intelligence has concluded that it was Iran that ordered his kidnapping 2 months ago, and he said Iran may have been behind Glass's release. With more Reagan administration reaction, White House correspondent Bill Plant.
From the Western White House, President Reagan, through his spokesman, expressed gratitude that Charles Glass is out of captivity.
He remains concerned about the other 8 hostages that we have there.
But the Reagan administration is handling efforts to free those remaining 8 Americans very differently now that arms sales to Iran have been exposed. Prior to the scandal, President Reagan met several times with hostage family members at the White House and around the nation, wearing his anguish over the plight of the hostages for all to see.
There has never been a day that we have not been trying every channel to get our hostages back from Lebanon.
Since the arms for hostages deal blew up in the president's face, administration efforts to get the captives released have disappeared completely from public view, which, says one former official, is the way it should be.
If anything comes out that's clear from the Iran-Contra hearings, is that too much was done to try to get the hostages out, and that the national interest was secondary.
Charles Glass's father says he knew that in his son's case, the administration was playing by different rules.
It's my understanding that a lot of people in the administration, and I know this for a fact, are very sympathetic to the hostages, all of them, you know. But the climate back there now is you can't do anything.
And the White House says it now knows Mr. Reagan went too far in earlier efforts to get captive Americans returned.
We've just gone through a period of difficult political circumstances as a result of the president's deep concern for the hostages. We were willing to go to fairly extraordinary lengths to try to get hostages out, and in some cases shouldn't have done that.
The arms for hostages deal hurt Mr. Reagan and left just as many Americans as before in captivity. Administration officials say that the president's frustration continues, but that perhaps the best thing he can do for the hostages now is to publicly ignore them. Bill Plant, CBS News, with the president in Santa Barbara.
It was a big guessing game for everyone in the Persian Gulf today, and many of the guesses were wrong. A patrol boat believed to be Iranian suddenly broke the lull in the tanker war. The attack came just outside the Gulf, in an area that's been safe up to now. Meanwhile, the U.S. Navy carrier Guadalcanal continued its unpredictable course, and U.S. officials would say nothing about when the next convoy of tankers may move out. Doug Tennell watched the warfare, military and psychological.
Iranian warships lurked just outside the Gulf tonight near the spot where a Liberian-registered tanker was attacked by unidentified patrol boats this afternoon. It was the first attack on a tanker by gunboats in weeks, the first ever in these waters. Iran is believed to be responsible. U.S. Navy ships were not far from the area when a British Navy helicopter warned us to proceed with caution.
I believe those warships are Iranian. There are also 2 American in the vicinity.
No one was injured in the attack, and this evening the tanker continued on its course.
It was almost as if this was the day the warships chose to show their stuff. A spontaneous display of naval power in the Gulf that filled the airwaves here with warnings.
Your intentions are unclear. You are hazarding my vessel and may be subject to appropriate defensive measures.
The Guadalcanal was operating only a few miles from waters controlled by Iran today after an unexpected about-face in its voyage north to Kuwait. No mines have been found here in the southern Gulf, but a formation of U.S. minesweeping helicopters hovered low over the water near the Guadalcanal and climbed high above the world's busiest oil shipping lanes in what at times appeared to be a kind of aeronautical ballet. Navy helicopter gunships chased onlookers away.
Well clear of my operating area for the safety of each of us. Over.
A ship from the Iranian Navy monitored the U.S. Navy's movements from several miles away, firing a warning flare when a civilian helicopter came too close. The margin of error here is getting smaller every day.
Navy warship 07. I'm reading you very weak.
Doug Tennell, CBS News in the Gulf.
Still to come on tonight's CBS Evening News. At last, the first AIDS vaccine for human testing. Correspondent Terry Drinkwater on the uproar over a land of forbidding beauty. And Jerry Bowen on a Las Vegas gamble, smart money says is a sure thing.
Players, nothing.
Oh, a headache, nothing's ready. Seen my extra strength bufferin?
Sure. My back hurt. Then Pam grabbed it. Sore shoulder.
Pam, got my bufferin?
Rick does. Arms ache setting up chairs.
They all know how good my bufferin is.
Extra strength bufferin for Rick's arms, Pam's shoulder, Bob's back, Sue's headache. It goes to where you hurt fast with an extra strength dose of relief.
Sue, you haven't changed a bit.
For headaches and a lot more, extra strength bufferin, also in regular strength from Bristol Myers.
Nothing comes between me and my pet except the hearts, 2 and 1 color. Don't want fleas or ticks on me or my pet, so I get the hearts 2 and 1 color.
Go ahead, hug, snuggle, tickle him. Nothing should come between you and your pet except the hearts 2 and 1 color. Kills fleas and ticks for 5 months, so you can get close to your pet without getting close to fleas and ticks.
Nothing comes between me and my pet except the hearts 2 and 1 color.
Pickpockets love to take vacations. Don't let them take yours. So don't carry cash. Carry American Express traveler's checks. Don't leave home without them.
I like Wheaties because they're just like running backs, crispy when you crunch them.
I like Wheaties because they're just like linemen. They got no sweetness.
Go tell your mama what the big boys eat.
Until today, news about the deadly disease called AIDS has been largely depressing when it hasn't been downright terrifying. Today, a note of promise. No more than that, but there is room for hope after the Food and Drug Administration's approval of an experimental vaccine. Deborah Potter has our report.
It's a major milestone, the approval of the first AIDS vaccine for testing on humans.
I would use the word hopeful. We are hopeful that this would be an effective vaccine.
The company that developed the experimental vaccine reports encouraging results in tests on lab animals. Scientists now plan to inject it in humans to make sure it's safe and to see if it triggers any immune response, suggesting that it might prevent the disease. Then and only then will further tests be in order.
We certainly haven't gotten to the point where we have a vaccine that we know will protect anyone from infection with the AIDS virus. we're at the very early beginnings of testing.
The vaccine is made from part of the outer surface of the AIDS virus, and scientists say it alone cannot cause the disease. Homosexual volunteers who don't have AIDS are now being recruited for the first clinical trials.
It's important that people not have a false sense of hope, and it's important that they not let down their guard right now.
The experimental vaccine approved today is just one of more than a dozen now being developed. But researchers warn that the AIDS virus is such a mystery, there's no guarantee that any of them will prevent the disease.
This is an unprecedented situation with AIDS. We can't make the kind of projections of protective immunity that we were able to do with other viruses.
Today's announcement does not mean that a cure for AIDS is any closer, and an effective vaccine is still years away. For now, the experts say, the only vaccine available is education. Deborah Potter, CBS News, Washington.
Rudolf Hess, the Nazi war criminal who died yesterday, apparently took his own life. British authorities at Spandau Prison disclosed today that Hess was found in a cottage on the prison grounds with an electric cord around his neck. He was rushed to a hospital where he was pronounced dead. Hess was 93. He had tried to kill himself several times in his 41 years at Spandau Prison. The president of Sri Lanka escaped an attempt on his life today, but another politician was killed and a dozen others wounded. Gunmen burst into a meeting of the ruling party in parliament. They fired shots and threw grenades. One of the grenades bounced off the table where the president was sitting, then exploded a few feet away, wounding a cabinet member. The attackers escaped. An anonymous caller said it was a protest against the peace agreement that gave concessions to Sri Lanka's religious minority, the Tamils.
Peanuts! Get your fresh roasted peanuts!
Harry, wait for your sister!
Remember getting Planters nuts fresh from the roaster?
Oh, the ones with Mr. Peanut.
One whiff, and you knew how good they'd taste.
Told ya.
Well, today, that goodness lives on in Planters honey roasted nuts. The honey roasted nuts that taste like they're fresh from the roaster. Planters honey roasted nuts. Mr. Peanut does it again.
Somehow there's got to be a cure for athlete's foot.
Hey, step up to the mic.
Mike.
Micatin. This cures athlete's foot. It's got Miconazole. There's nothing more powerful than this.
Step up to the cure. Step up to the Micatin.
Just a sprinkle a day
Helps keep odor away.
Shower to shower regular, spice, and morning fresh help you keep that just showered feeling from one shower to the next.
Have you had your sprinkler today?
There's a war going on in your mouth. Your teeth are being attacked by plaque. Dentists say it's worse than tartar because plaque acids can start cavities. And plaque bacteria can lead to gum disease. But there's help. Checkup toothpaste helps remove plaque everywhere you brush. Checkup gum helps remove plaque between brushings. So switch to Checkup and fight plaque back.
The Commerce Department today said housing construction rose 0.9% in July. That was the first increase in 4 months, and analysts said it may signal an industry comeback from the springtime rise in mortgage rates. But the government reported that building permits, a sign of future activity, dipped 1.9% last month. It took almost 63 years to establish Nevada's first national park last Saturday. Now there are proposals to create 3 national parks in just one state, but that's not likely to happen tomorrow. Terry Drinkwater explains why.
Probably no place in America is as vast and forbidding as California's desert. It is not just barren sand, but a landscape so varied the eye sees colors that seem unreal, and other things that aren't there at all, mirages, and dunes that are real, and that move and seem eternal. There are often sandstorms of such force the desert appears to be in danger of blowing away. But today, environmentalists say, it is man, not the wind, who threatens. Senator Alan Cranston is leading the conservationists' fight.
What we want to do is permit people to enjoy the desert as God made it, untouched by the hand of man or the wheels of man.
We need to protect it from off-road vehicles. They have their right to go many places, but they shouldn't be allowed to go everywhere because they leave scars that last forever.
Cranston's bill would make national parks out of Death Valley and Joshua Tree, both of which are now just national monuments. The third national park would be here in the vast eastern Mojave, a 1.5 million acre preserve. In all, the new land use restrictions would apply to over 25% of California, and that's way too much for the politically powerful coalition fighting the bill.
Washington is, in my view, participating in a feeding frenzy on the wilderness issues. We have many more acres in wilderness than this nation can afford.
Mining would be severely restricted, jobs lost. High-tech industrialists complain they'd be prevented from extracting some of the scarce exotic desert minerals they need. Ranchers who eke out a living on the desert say their wells yield water for wildlife as well as for their cattle, and that controlled grazing doesn't devastate the land.
Well, they're just taking the guts out of a way of life that we've worked, and in a lot of cases, 3 and 4 generations has worked to accomplish.
Back 100 years ago, when the ghost towns were alive, Congress created Yellowstone and Yosemite because their mountainous scenery was so spectacular. It is now high time, conservationists say, that large sections of the fragile deserts also be preserved forever as national parks. Terry Drinkwater, CBS News, Death Valley, California.
The governor of Virginia today pardoned a convicted burglar who escaped from a state prison camp 41 years ago. Vincent Policio, a retired electrician, had been living in California since 1959. But 2 weeks ago, Policio's past caught up with him and he was arrested and jailed in Los Angeles pending an extradition hearing. That will no longer be necessary given the governor's decision today. In Cincinnati today, hospital orderly Donald Harvey pleaded guilty to killing at least 24 people, many of them patients at a county-owned hospital. The 35-year-old Harvey was sentenced to 3 consecutive life terms in prison, making him ineligible for parole for at least 60 years. A prosecutor said Harvey agreed to plea bargain to plead guilty to all counts to avoid a possible death sentence.
Okay, honey.
Can you tell who hasn't had their Kellogg's bran flakes?
Hang in there, honey.
Well, some people feel a little sluggish if they're not eating a balanced diet.
Oh boy, am I sluggish.
Kellogg's are the only bran flakes with fiber and a full day supply of iron to help balance your diet. And that's one great way to help fight that sluggish feeling. So maybe you can tell who hasn't had their Kellogg's bran flakes
Great shot, honey.
and who has. Kellogg's bran flakes, the fiber and iron cereal.
Dan Miller waited a long time to see this. He almost missed it. Not long ago, Dan had a heart attack. Since then, his doctor prescribed a regimen of exercise, the right foods, and an aspirin a day. Studies with people who had a heart attack or unstable angina show aspirin can help prevent heart attacks.
He was always there when I needed
Maybe it could help you. See your doctor. He knows what's right for you. This message brought to you by Bayer, the wonder drug that works wonders.
All I did was eat a chili dog with pickles, and all of a sudden I'm living in Siberia. So I take a claret. Hey, where did you come from?
Only Clarets has Actazole with chlorophyll. Gets rid of bad breath fast.
When the burning, itching, and soreness of hemorrhoids flare up, Tux medicated pads give you soothing, cooling relief on contact. For hemorrhoid flare-up, get Tux from Park Davis.
Peace talks broke down today between South Africa's Anglo Mining Company and the union for striking black miners. The talks were aimed not at settling the strike, but trying to prevent more clashes between strikers and police. The union and the company blame each other for the violence on the picket lines. The union says 300 of its members have been injured so far in the 9-day-old walkout. South Korean workers today called off a mass strike against Hyundai, the country's largest export manufacturer. The government stepped in and promised to mediate with the company. A wave of labor unrest has cost South Korea about $300 million in the last month. Asian investment in this country has taken a surprising turn, and as Jerry Bowen reports tonight, it involves high rollers who didn't come just to play.
This is the way the big players come to Las Vegas. Private jet, private limo, and 55-year-old Ginja Yasuda is a very big player, the face of the new money in town. Japanese money. But Yasuda doesn't bet against the house. He owns it, his own casino, the Aladdin, and he paid cash.
Up to today, I spent more than $100 million, that is sure.
Down the strip, the Japanese outbid the Americans, including the Hilton hotel chain, for the Dunes Casino. Price, over $150 million. And downtown, still another Japanese investor is putting the finishing touches on the new Park Hotel. In less than 2 years, Japanese money has acquired nearly 6% of the Las Vegas gaming industry. The Japanese are bringing their millions to Las Vegas, buying a piece of the gambling business, because to them, it seems like a sure thing, a real estate investment that can't go wrong.
So the Japanese are willing to come into the United States, look for a longer-term picture, and take an immediate return that's less than a comparable U.S. investor would be willing to accept.
Yasuda, said to be worth $250 million, is the first foreigner to be licensed to run a casino. And he has his own way of doing business, the high-tech, made-in-Japan way. His slot machines are linked to a computer that charts the cash flow in seconds.
How's last night? It has a big action.
And while all casinos have surveillance systems to keep dealers and players honest, Yasuda's is state-of-the-art. And he says his company in Japan is programming computers to actually follow the play and the payoff at the blackjack tables.
If you stick on me, you'll be in a higher tax bracket, see?
And in a town where the big casinos are unionized, Yasuda's is not.
That's better for me because not complicated.
To me, it's a sore spot on the strip. So we do have plans of organizing.
But that's the only sore spot. Nevada's business community is more than delighted to let the Japanese buy into the action. There's hope that high-tech industry and high-spending Japanese tourists will follow.
Player's a natural 9. You need to tie it up, Mr. M. 99.
High rollers like the mysterious Mr. M with his stack of chips. Every chip worth $1,000. Genji Yasuda especially has high hopes.
I like it and I enjoy it. But on the other hand, so tough.
And these are pretty good times in Las Vegas. The Japanese are coming, and people are laughing, all the way to the bank. Jerry Bowen, CBS News, Las Vegas.
And that's tonight's CBS Evening News. Dan Rather, Bob Schieffer will be here tomorrow. I'm going fishing. See you again soon. Good night.
How does the electric company make electricity?
I think how they could make the electricity is take these laser beams and put it into a machine, and then it goes through wires, and then it goes underground. And when somebody needs electricity, they just send it through a wire by the touch of a button. It goes beep.
The most important thing to know about your electric company is we're there when you need us.
It's been a long day, big boy. Feel like you still got something left? Sure you do. 'Cause you got one smart mama, and she got you off the ground this morning with a real winner. Howdy ho, wheat, time to gloat. 'Cause you don't wear no sugar coat. You just can't beat that pure whole wheat. Now go tell your mama what the big boys eat.
But I'm not ready for a house and kids. I just got promoted.
But I want a family.
I want to get rid of this headache.
Anacin, doctor-recommended aspirin formula. Well?
My headache's gone. And this could make a great nursery.
Doctor-recommended Anacin.
Where does it hurt?
Here.
For indigestion, heartburn, and gas, nobody does as much as Malox Plus. Dose for dose, it neutralizes more than any regular strength antacid and dissolves gas. Nobody does as much as Malox Plus. American vision, world view. That is the promise of CBS News.
This is CBS.
Just ahead on Eyewitness News, another startling decision today from the Metro Election Commission, and this decision has voters, politicians, and even the state confused. And we'll see how doctors have solved the problem with one pregnant woman who's trying not to give birth. That's in Health's Beat. Details coming up next on Eyewitness News. Stay with us.
Celebrating a tradition of family savings on our 30th anniversary.
There's a tradition of savings at Hills, like Wrangler jeans for men and boys. Hills has a gigantic selection,